Welcome to the Roanoke Real Estate Podcast with your host and realtor, the Frazier Hughes Experience. And do not forget to Hughes it or lose it.
All right, here's your realtor.
Welcome to the Roanoke Real Estate Podcast. I am the Frazier Hughes Experience Realtor and voted best realtor in Roanoke by Roanoke Magazine and in Blacksburg and Roanoke. That's in the New River Valley this year by the Roanoke Times. So thanks for joining me today. It's really good to have you. I'm in the middle of intermittent fasting, and I'm not doing it for a long time today. I've got some friends. I've got a friend named David and another friend named Mike that will go for 5 days without eating. 5 days, and I've never gone that long. I think the longest I've gone is like today. I'm not going to eat till 2, and then I'll eat from 2 to 6 a day, and then I won't eat after that. And it's really helps my mind be clear and for me to trim down. But I think that may be the longest I've ever gone, unless I was sick or in the hospital. But my team leader here at Keller Williams, she had encouraged me, or mentioned rather, that she didn't eat till 2 o'clock, and the longest I'd ever gone was 12. And right before COVID, I was intermittent fasting when I was working for a company that handled investment properties. And so I would sit there on the phones and go to people's houses and not eat till 12, and that worked. And now every now and then I'll go till 2. So yesterday we had Friendsgiving here at work. So there was a bunch of food. So I feel like my stomach's still full, and some of the food is still out here right now. Like I can see the inside of their fridge, the sliced ham and turkey, and there's brownies, and I've only got about an hour to go. So I definitely encourage you to do it. I can work out when I'm not eating as well. So I feel good, and I drink about a gallon of water a day. And these are all the things that help me to become a great realtor, a great salesman. And why do I say that? Well, I mean, first of all, to try things different and new, and to challenge yourself in all areas of your life, no matter your age. I'm 50 years old. So, whether in your 20s, 30s, just to keep challenging yourself and try different things. And if I didn't try to not eat until 2 o'clock, because 12 is the longest I've gone, I wouldn't have realized, hey, you know what? My brain ticks really well. I think really clearly when I'm not eating, and I wouldn't have realized, you know what? I can sometimes eat a good chunk of food between 2 and 6. I'm okay after that, and I work out all the time, and wow, I'm getting leaner. So I encourage you to always be changing and try new and different things. Hey, I want to give you a quick market update. I think the news in all reality can be kind of depressing, because I feel like a lot of the things that you see in the news scare you. I mean, like, my wife likes to turn on the news for entertainment purposes, and I will laugh at it because I feel like it's almost turned into like, what are those tabloids that you pick up when you're walking out? So the Inquirer, like when you're walking out of the grocery store. I'm like, is this real? I mean, like, is this real? Like the stuff I'm watching. So I was like, this is not positive. And that's what the Frazier Hughes Experience Realtor is all about, is staying positive. And so that's why I choose to watch sports. I'm really into sports. So I'd rather watch ESPN and see basketball players or baseball players arguing, or owners of teams arguing, rather than be pumped full of news that I'm not sure is true or not. And let's talk about what is true in the market here in our area. Homes are we're not in a housing slump. The rates have gone up some, and when the rates have gone up, they're around in the 7s right now. So when you listen to this, they might be a little bit higher. And if you talk to any lenders, they'll tell you that the rates are good, actually really good. And we got spoiled at the 3%. Today's topic is how selling cars helped me become a great realtor, a great salesman. Actually, let's just say a great realtor, because that is the topic. And Every now and then you'll see Chevy or Ford, they'll do like 0% financing for, 60 months on a brand new truck. And, it's like, oh, I got a really good deal on this truck. The financing was really amazing, but it was for a short period. And, a lot of us got lucky and refinanced homes. And I know when my wife and I bought a house, we were in the threes. And hey, I'm grateful for that, because I know that some people can't afford as much as they could afford a year ago. And the thing is that people have to sell homes, people die, people move, people come into town, people outgrow their homes. And, it's comparable to renting. Would you rather rent or would you rather have your own home? So, the market is still pretty good. Look at these statistics right here. Actually, listen to them instead. If you go back over the past 3 years, right? And this is why I try to stay and pay attention to the facts. So in 2020, here in the Roanoke Valley, now a lot of people, when they hear the Roanoke Valley, they just think of maybe Roanoke. It goes out to the lake, up to Ironto, even parts of Christiansburg, Bedford, and that's Franklin County, Rocky Mount. That's a huge territory if you think about it. Boone's Mill. So if you look at the homes in 2020 that sold, this month in 2020, 391. And then in 2021, we were still doing pretty well, right? I mean, right? Okay. 380. So only 11 homes. A difference of 11 homes. And now this year, 358. So 391, 380, and 358. Not a big difference. And people are still purchasing homes. In fact, everything I have is under contract, and the price is the big motivator here. So if you want to crank up the price on your house, just get prepared to drop it if you're being unrealistic. Okay. So I was a car salesman before I got into real estate. And it's always interesting to ask successful realtors, hey, what did you do before you got into real estate? What got you here? What got you to this point? And, some of them were nurses. I work with some of the top agents here at Keller Williams, and outside of my office here, one was a police officer. One worked in a factory. And then one ran a nursing home. So I was a car salesman. And, being a car salesman, I always have hated when people say, oh, yeah, that used car salesman mentality. And that's really just a phrase that I think took place maybe 20 years ago, when people would get taken advantage of on the car lot. I mean, 20 years ago, some of these car reps were making, hand over fist. It's easy to find out if you're getting a fair deal or not. I mean, the internet will tell you. I'll give you some tips and tricks too. But really, if you're looking to purchase a vehicle, you can get online and see what that same vehicle is going for in Pennsylvania. Who wouldn't drive to save a couple thousand? Just something to think about. I would never encourage that, because, I like being able to go drive right back into the dealership, to the salesperson, to their service department, and say, hey, look, I bought this here and this is what's going on with it, and I want you to fix it. So that's only downfall if you have to go elsewhere. But some people that doesn't really matter. So how in the world did I get into the car business? How does it affect me being a realtor? Well, I was on the radio for a long time, 8 different radio stations. And I left the radio because I had a friend here that had a call center that said, you know what, I know you're on the radio, and I think that you would do really well on the phones here, and you could double your income. And I was like, no way. I double my income? I was like, you're kidding me. And so, anyways, I took the leap, because at that point I was on a top 40 station where I was supposed to be part of the morning show. And I ended up, because I did not like being on that morning show as a sidekick, I wanted to be the main guy because I felt like I was good enough, but I ended up doing nights. And I did not like taking phone calls for a request for 50 cents and Destiny's Child from 14-year-olds. I didn't really enjoy it. So he asked about this call center. I went there, got on the phones, and doubled my income. I did it. And then the radio called me back. A new station here was starting, and I said, hey, I'm making more money now. And they said, we'll pay it to you. We feel like you're worth it. So they switched to country. And that's what happens is a lot of times these stations will say you move to a town and, you were going to be on the country station as their on-air talent, and they switch to sports talk. Well, you're out of a job. And it's not because you didn't do a good job. It's just because, they either got new owners or country just didn't test well in the area. So at that point, I'd seen this ad for internet sales for selling cars. And I was like, I was in it. I just worked in a call center here like a year and a half ago. And I was on the radio, so I'd be really good at this. I'm really going to do well at this. And I didn't do that great at it. I did not do that great. I thought, and so when I got hired, I was in a room with like 4 or 5 guys, and we would get these internet leads, and we would call them. I didn't know about closing a sale. I didn't know how to handle a customer. I didn't know how to have a conversation. I knew how to talk to you on the radio. I knew how to read a script when I was in the call center, but face to face and, driving traffic into the dealership, I wasn't very good at it at all. I mean, in the cool thing is that the dealership took out an ad in the newspaper. It said, hey, Frazier from the radio is now selling cars. I thought people were going to flock in and just buy from me because they like me. I thought, people will laugh at this. I was like, I'm a handsome guy. They're going to buy me. They'll buy because, I'm handsome. And I was like, that wasn't true. Okay, so proved myself wrong. The radio didn't do it. Looks didn't sell. It's how you have a conversation and treat people with what sells, and so, and how you sell them. So I'm sitting there in this little room, and we would get these internet leads, and I was going through a divorce. Oh my gosh, I think this was like, I'm 50, so I think I was 33 at the time, and I was eating so much sugar because I was having so much anxiety. I didn't drink. I'd ordered a crate of Easter eggs online, the ones that are all sugar, like different colors and have the yellow cream center, and I was just eating those and just trying to maintain, just hanging in there. I wouldn't give up. So I did okay in the car business at that point. So I had a few different runs, and I worked for Berglund here. And, I contribute a lot of my success to the managers that I have had and how they helped me and dealt with me. It wasn't the other salesmen that necessarily made me a good salesperson, even though I would try to copy some of them. It was more of having a good manager and listening to them that I contribute to some of my success in social media. So when I transitioned from internet sales, which were pretty interesting because we had like 12 dealerships, we would get a lead and we would show up wherever the client wanted to see the car. And before I talk about that transition, I want to talk about the fact that having 12 different dealerships and working with 12 different managers allowed me to gain a lot of experience on how to handle people. I'm going to give you one story is that there was a manager by the name of Walt Frazier, and he was at the Chevrolet Jeep dealership. Actually, it was at the Jeep dealership. And so I would show up, meet the manager. I'd say, yeah, I got somebody coming to look at a car. And he'd be like, all right, cool. What are they looking at? And so I was like, oh, they're looking at this truck. And he was like, okay, well, go ahead and take them out on a test drive. And so I went on the test drive and we were putting the numbers together for him. And he handed me, they would give you a worksheet that would give the buyers options for their payments. And he said, I want you to go out there, give them their options, and shut up. I was like, okay, you got it. And, it's like gunslinging, just wild scenarios, just different, just the way people would handle you. I mean, he's a good guy too, but he'd say, I want you to go out there, give them their options, and shut up. And that's one of the reasons that a lot of salespeople don't do too well, is that they just talk too much. You know what I'm saying? I let the clients do a lot of the talking. I like to ask them questions and learn about them, and not be Mr. Smarty Pants or know-it-all. But you just be quiet and give them their options. Let them be in charge. Let them feel in charge, and feel confident. I had another dealership I went to, is Pontiac. I don't think Pontiac's still around. And the manager, Tim Irish, said to me, goes, go out there and make a friend. Because the car lot was humming with people. He said, go out there and make a friend. And these things I don't forget. We're talking 33 years old, 34 years old, don't know how to sell, don't know how to handle people. This doesn't count my Dale Carnegie training. We'll talk about that another day, okay, which has helped me tremendously. But, just, hey, go out there, shut up. You don't do the talking, give them their options. Don't be a Mr. Know-it-all. And then the other, lesson I learned was, hey, go out there and make a friend. And that's, make a friend with your client. When I transitioned from internet sales, I would go out, and I was at one dealership, and I would just go out and greet the clients. And we had an all-star team on the floor. I definitely wasn't the best salesman, but my manager changed the game for me. His name is Brian Vess. And I remember when I had to greet my first client on the car lot, a complete stranger that I did not know. I was so nervous. And at this point, I'd gone through a divorce. I had moved in with my parents because I did not have any money. My child support was really high, and I was just trying to survive. And thank God my parents helped me out and said, hey, you can move in here. We'll give you some food, and, you don't have to pay us anything. That's what parents are for, right? And so I was so nervous on that car lot. I almost said, screw this. I'm getting the hell out of here. I can't do this. I'm leaving. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. And I was like, Frazier, if you want to feed your children, this is how I'm talking to myself in my head. And this is how I talk to myself today. I was like, if you want to feed your children, if you want to be successful, you have got to push through this fear, and you've got to do it. You've got to do it. So I was like, hello, sir. And just one after another. Hello, hey, what brings you in here today? What brings you in here today? My top closing, you want to hear my top closing line to close a customer? Are you ready? It's going to blow your mind. On the test drives, I would let them talk. I'd let them listen to the radio, enjoy the music. I can tell you I don't know anything about engines. I don't know anything about sound systems. I don't know anything about leather. I don't know a lot about the cars, but I do know that people, when they like something and love something, you can find out the answers. There's a window sticker for a reason, and there is the internet and a manager, right? But are you ready for my number one closing line? I would be in the back seat on these test drives. And once they got done with the test drive, I would say, so do you want to buy the car? And I remember the first time I asked it, I was so freaking nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to ask them this question. So do you want to buy the car? And they would always answer me. Well, and this is how I'd find out. They would say, well, if the numbers make sense. And if they said that, boom, all I had to do was get them inside, and then we could start talking numbers. And then you would go on to close them on the payment that worked for them, because everybody's typically on a payment unless they're paying cash. My friend Dustin is selling here in town. He said $800 is a normal car payment these days. I remember then it was like $350, $400 for that, and that was high. But I think about this, so nervous to say these things to people, and now it just rolls off my tongue. I'm not nervous. I'm not shy. I have like a governor on me. Do you know what a governor is? They have them on school buses so they can't go over 50 miles an hour. And I have to have a governor in my brain that says, okay, Frazier, shut up. Don't talk anymore. Don't say this joke that you think they may like, because they're not going to like it. Just be chill. And just be chill. And then it all seems to work out. So I was so nervous, but I began to push through these fears. And my manager, Brian Vest, that helped me, he would sit down with us daily. And he would say, hey, we would write down, this is before the internet got big and CRMs. They used to have a book, too, that would tell you the prices. There was no Cars.com or Auto Trader or some of the other popular ones. And they would pull out books, like a blue book, to tell you what the price of the car was worth. But Brian would sit down with us and we would have a notebook. I've got one right here. I still use it today. And we would write down our clients. I would call it the hot list, and he would say, okay, well, Frazier, Mr. Wilson came in yesterday, and what's going on with him? Well, he said he liked the car, but, he was just thinking about it. Okay, just thinking about it. And so they had a rule in the car business where you had to touch the desk. So you would have to go and tell the manager before they left, like, hey, Mr. Jones is getting ready to leave, so they could have one more voice to hear to help them make the decision. And, every now and then when things get hairy in real estate, when things get really tough, if the wife's crying or, because I've had wives cry and yell at me, I'll bring my broker in, to make sure everybody's comfortable and we're making the right decisions, even though I know we're making the right decisions, just to hear that second voice. But he would go through all of our leads with us and be like, all right, so what are they doing? And he would pick up the phone and call them with us, teaching us, guiding us how to handle these clients. And one of the number one things I learned from him is that he would always go out and make a friend. He wasn't the guy that said it. That was a guy by the name of Tim. But he would go out and talk to these people for 30 or 40 minutes before they bought a car. And then all of a sudden, all right, what do we got to do to get this thing closed up? And then, boom, he'd close them. But always just making friendships, treating people well, finding out their needs. What do they like? What is their life about? Dale Carnegie teaches, for the icebreaker, it's 5 different things, like, what is your name? When's your birthday? Do you like to travel? How many kids do you have? How many what are your hobbies? And usually out of those 5 questions, and those were things he was talking about naturally, that come naturally to people that are great salesmen, great salespeople, great realtors. And the things you need to do to be successful, to have successful conversations. And, usually if you ask those 5 questions, you've got something in common that you can build off of. And there's all kinds of different personalities. There's, the angry person. There's the anxious person. There's the educated person. There's people that think they know everything and more than you. They drive me crazy. But I learned those things in the car business, and it was a grind. I had to go up against other salesmen that would take my deals. And what does that look like? Well, I mean, like, hey, that's Mr. Jones that came in. Sorry, Frazier, already working with him, and sometimes get run over, going from dealership to dealership, dealing with different personalities. 89% of the car salesmen are men. One of the top ones was a female. But, just dealing with a lot of personalities. I had one person that, tried to copy my business card because I'm called The Experience, and he started calling himself The Experience. I mean, I was like, what in the world's going on here? That wasn't the most difficult part. The difficult times were competing with others, the way you got talked to sometimes by the other salesmen, jealousy from other salespeople. And here's one of the hardest parts of it. Are you ready? Well, wearing a tie and a button down in 100-degree weather, or going out on the car lot when it's wind chill 15 degrees and there are people driving through the lot. People come through all the time. Or it's pouring down rain and someone wants to go on a test drive and you're holding an umbrella up with one hand while you're trying to get the screwdriver with one hand and the license plate on the car for the test drive. And, the late nights that you would have to work when your wife is like, hey, you're going to be home for dinner? No, I can't. I've got that. Remember that guy? He said he was going to come in to look at the Range Rover. Yeah, well, he's coming in at right when we close. And then, having to get my mom and my stepdad to watch my children because I was working late. And your wife's telling you, hey, I've got your food, it's in the microwave, and then getting angry at you, like, oh, you're there another night? I mean, it's 10 o'clock at night, it's, 20 degrees, and you're putting the new tags on the car, and you're exhausted, and you got to get up the next morning and, boom, do it again. Those were the tough times. And it may not sound tough to you. I know it's not working in a factory, but my feet hurt me a lot when I was on the car lot. I remember going to the podiatrist and getting shots in my heel for cortisone because I was on the parking lot so much. Counting my steps, walking miles and miles. Those are the things that really built me up to be a strong realtor and to also handle adversity. And also handle people because I dealt with so many different personalities. And they would hand me really good leads at Burgle and Luxury. We were on a lead system, and they would come in, and I would have to deal with people that were all over the country and different states, doctors, lawyers, to factory workers. I dealt with all kinds of incomes from millionaires to people that could barely afford a car, who barely had enough money to buy a car or would have to get help from their parents. And this is one of the things that has helped me become a great realtor, is because I can deal with the different personalities from selling cars at Burgle and Luxury, where I was Salesman of the Year in 2017, where when I hit that car lot, was so scared to talk to people, I became the Salesman of the Year. I sold more cars than anyone else: Land Rover, Jaguar, Mercedes, Infiniti, and Volvo. And I was known for it. In fact, I didn't check my sales statistics, but I was one of the top salesmen in all of the Burgle dealerships. And there's 12 dealerships. So here's one of the things that really helped me. It's kind of like when I went from private school to public school. At private school, I think I may have had just a few white friends. When I went to public school, I had tons of black friends, and I loved it. It was cool, and I was with all demographics in all price ranges. But the thing about working at Burgle and Burgle and Luxury is that you could sell from any dealership. So I would get leads on a $10,000 Nissan, and I would get leads on a $180,000 Range Rover, and I would sell them all. So dealing with those different personalities has helped me become a great realtor, and talking to them, having the conversations, getting the leads, following up with the leads, staying on top of them, giving them great, customer service, telling them about the cars, taking videos of the cars, sending them pictures of the cars, doing the things the other salesman would never do. And then, social media changed the game because I made pictures with all my clients based on what they did for a living. So if they were a doctor, I might Photoshop a hospital in the background, and tell a little story. And people saw me selling, and they were like, hey, this is the guy to deal with. Meaning, as I do this in real estate, it made the transition. Social media has changed the game for me. Making the videos, making the pictures. And now people see I'm a force to be reckoned with. I'm the realtor they should use because I'm fun, I'm easygoing. Stay positive. That's my slogan. So one of my tricks too, when I would sell cars, is that I would tag people on Facebook and then I would add one of their friends. I'd be like, and I was single at the time. So I was like, so she's friends with Michelle. All right, cool. And it could have been a guy too. And I'll add Michelle. So then they were all seeing that I'm selling cars. So I've got like 1,000 or 1,200 people on Facebook. I don't even know who they are, but they all see what I'm selling and how I'm selling. And, I showcase that in a positive light. That fear and doubt that crept in, when I started doing this, I still have it a little bit today, but not very much. I just signed one of my biggest listing agreements with someone who is in a profession and they do really well. And, I'm going to say they're either a lawyer, doctor, or, they fly airplanes, but someone that is in a profession that I had to deal with when I was, do you see the transition here at Berglund Luxury? So you fast forward that, I just kept on trying. I didn't give up, and I just kept on staying on top of people, being a friend and being nice to people, using my social media. I mean, it was tough. I had to work all holidays too. Like, Thanksgiving, all my family they give us off Thanksgiving. I had to work Black Friday, I had to work. I remember working Christmas Eve, and, once I got unleashed from there and back into real estate, and getting in, not back into real estate, but getting into real estate, I had a leg up on the other realtors. And if you've had a profession like this, you understand. You understand the grind, what you went through. And I think back to it, if I had to sell cars again to take care of my family, I would. I don't want to go back and do that again. I don't want to do that. I mean, I like what I do. You can do really well selling houses. For a small house, you can make as much as you did selling, 18 cars in a month. And that's a lot of work. And the house gives you more gratification because I never cried when someone bought a car. But I have had tears in my eyes when someone, sells their home with me and how happy they are, or buys their home with me. And, if you're out there and you're scared and you're a little nervous, keep pressing forward. And, don't give up. Don't give up. You've been listening to the Roanoke Real Estate Podcast. I'm the Frazier Hughes Experience Realtor. And if you want to catch up with me, I'm going to go ahead and just tell you, I've got the #1 business Facebook page in our valley, the Frazier Hughes Experience Realtor. I'm on TikTok, Hughes or Lose, Instagram, LinkedIn. Just type in Frazier Hughes with a Z, and feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'll help you any way I can, and would love to hear your story too on how you have become great or are trying to. Thanks again for listening to the Roanoke Real Estate Podcast, and for thinking of me, Frazier Hughes, when it comes to selling and finding your home in the Roanoke Valley and beyond. Stay positive, and don't forget, the experience is real.
Want to be on the Roanoke Real Estate Podcast? Call Frazier now or text 540-314-5583. Also contact Frazier to sell or find your next home, and he is always fresh on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Stay positive, Star City and Hughes, don't lose it.